Welcome to 2050, the No Fluff podcast about the big picture, positive impact, and life purpose. This podcast inspires you to think big, create your life purpose, and make it happen. My name is Max Huck, and for this episode, I interviewed Stephen Kotler. Stephen Kotler is a New York Times bestselling author, award-winning journalist, and co-founder and director of research for the Flow Genome Project. He works with Google, the Navy SEALs, Red Bull athletes, and other high performers to research flow states and peak performance. Together with his wife, Joy Nicholson, he co-founded the Rancho de Chihuahua Dog Sanctuary in New Mexico. Hi, Stephen. Thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Max, it's really good to be with you.
Let's get straight into it. Stephen, what is your life purpose?
You know, it's an interesting question because 2 days from now, I guess on my next Monday, The Mind, I'm gonna talk about practical flow. And I think one of the most practical things you can do to increase the amount of flow in your life is write a mission statement for your life, right? In the same way that Peter Diamandis and I advocated for a massively transformative purpose for your company, in bold, I think you need a mission statement for your life. Mine is broken into three things. I really want to change the world or impact the world with my writing. I want to make the world a better place for animals. And I want to massively advance the science and understanding and training of peak performance states. Those are the three things. Those are the three things I do, and everything else I don't.
Mm-hmm. So you have these three areas. If you think about the year 2050, which is like 32 years from now, but you can do like really a lot in 32 years. Do you have like goals where you say, okay, by the year 2050, I want to have this changed in the world?
By the year 2050, I want to reverse the devastating loss of biodiversity, right? To do my best to end the sixth grade extinction. What that's going to require, I believe, across the boards, is everything from mega linkages to in vitro meat to a smart grid for water to smart cities to zero manufacturing to some acknowledgement of population as an issue. And if we can't fix population, then you need, a lot of equal rights for women and access to fresh water, because those two things lower population, and population is critical for preserving biodiversity. So, though, there's going to be along the way probably a massive reinvention of our food systems also, and a widening of our sphere of empathy to encompass, non-human animals. Mm-hmm. So those, on that front, those are my goals. For flow, I don't know if I have thought that far out, though I am working, and I think a bunch of other people are working. What I would really like to see as the downstream byproduct of all the work that I'm putting in is I believe that using virtual reality, you can make using VR, AI, and flow science, you can essentially make, distributed, democratized, accelerated learning classrooms, right? VR allows us to kind of democratize learning. All you need is a headset to be able to attend classes. If you've added an AI layer, you can make it self-directed learning, which is great for flow, and it's also great for learning. And then you can bake in a flow trigger layer, and amplify learning using flow. And I think that, training up the next generation to, access peak states of consciousness far faster and to use them, to better the world using a VR distributed system. I think that's there. And book-wise, I will be fairly old by 2050. Not done. And if Kurzweil is right and we're reaching longevity escape velocity, then who knows? But, I would probably like to have written at least 25 books by then.
How did you come up with these goals? Or why did you find them? Why did you create them?
Well, it's individual, right? So one, why I created them is my general belief about a lot of things in life is that you can't avoid the suffering. There's no way around it, right? If it's hard here, it's hard for everyone. I've met, everybody from presidents and prime ministers through the most famous actors and musicians you could possibly meet to businessmen and tech wizards. It's hard for everybody. Nobody is having an easy time here, right? It's just life is difficult. So if life is difficult across the boards for all of us, doesn't matter who you are, then why not try to change the world, right? I always say that we get one shot at this life and we're going to spend a third of it asleep. So what we do with the other 2/3 is the only question that matters. And I'm going to use those other 2/3 to make the biggest dent in the universe I possibly can. If for no other reason, then I'm going to suffer anyways. So why not go for it? And more specifically, to answer your questions, I've been a writer since I was 4 years old, and I've wanted to kind of rock the world with my words since not long after then. This is my art, this is my craft, this is how I express myself, and I'm just hardwired to go big. So that's just sort of built in. I love animals and I love underdogs, and animals are the ultimate underdogs. Biodiversity is the ultimate underdog, right? Nobody is championing this stuff. People champion human causes. They don't champion animals and ecosystems and environments, and so I want to fight for the champion underdog, and as as a skier, as an outdoor athlete, as somebody who's spent his life around animals, etc., I love these wild environments, and I want to do everything I can to fight and preserve them. They've given me so much. I have to give back to them. And when it comes to flow science, I always sort of maintained that this was a very selfish pursuit for me, that a lot of other people were interested in human performance to change the species, and I was interested in human performance so me and my friends could get more flow and do more work in the world. And I sort of still maintain that, but I've come around to the belief that it's abundance is a real possibility, but I really believe it's abundance or bust. We either fix these problems or the species goes away. And the best way to fix kind of wicked problems in the world is through flow. So I've come around to believing that the best thing I can do on that front is to train up as many people as possible in flow science and research and training. So that's, I don't know if those answers your questions, but that's as far as I can take you on that one.
So you have multiple goals, like in flow, in, let's say, biodiversity, animals. How are you going to make that happen to reach your goals?
I've talked a lot about this in my books, and we wrote about it in Stealing Fire, but you gotta have high, hard goals, massively transformative purposes, mission statements, right? And then you gotta have a to-do list. How am I gonna do these things? I'm gonna do 8 things today. Tomorrow I'm gonna do 8 things. You know what I mean? My daily to-do list is about 8 items long, because that's what I've discovered I can maximize focus and flow for over time. And I just chunk it all down. Everything, is broken into stages. I said cockily, I'd like to write 25 books. I've written 9, and we were talking before the program about how I'm now under contract for 4 more. So, that's how I see it. I know what I'm writing now. I know what I'm writing next week and next month, and, basically everything for the next 3 to 4 years. I just break it down into really, these are the next steps. Right? And to just kind of take that one step out, the best example I saw of this kind of thing and how to solve these kinds of challenges was Peter Diamandis and his attempt to open the space frontier. Peter's famous for the X Prize, right? And that contest. But what a lot of people don't know is long before that contest happened, his goal was to surround the problem, and that's what he really did. He built an international space university to train up the next generation of space scientists, right, and to train up people who were really interested in his visions. He built the X Prize, right? He built an asteroid mining company because you need a market and economic reason to go into space. He built a space tourism company for the same reason. And then he built another space tourism company, the Zero G company, that gives people a taste of weightlessness, just to kind of help develop that portion of it. I think he got involved in building a new spacesuit and on, right? He surrounds the problem. So when I think about bigger problems like biodiversity or like those abundance kind of problems, that's the approach I take. I try to surround the problem. I try to come at it from every angle, right? Peter built a company, 360 degrees around space. And the result is the Falcon Heavy, right? Like last week, Elon Musk, a private citizen, launched the most powerful rocket on Earth. And he did it because he wants to colonize Mars, right? Like that's the downstream impact of one guy sort of surrounding the problem.
If people listening to this podcast think like your missions sound awesome and they want to support you, how can people support you in reaching these missions?
Well, probably the easiest way is go to stephenkotler.com and sign up for my email newsletter. Go to the flowgenomeproject.com. Take the Flow profile, if for no other reason, and figure out, where you're most likely to find flow in your life. Get on the FGP mailing list as well. And just, stay current on all the stuff that we're doing in the world. And there's lots of ways kind of to jump in everywhere. We're always looking for volunteers to help with projects.
Awesome. I think that was it's a good inspiration for a lot of people. And I really like the big picture, the big visions that you shared. And I think that's really like a good content. And it fits totally in the podcast concept of 2050. So thank you so much, Stephen.
Sure. I wish I had a better answer on 2050. It's hard to look, the human mind has a very tough time thinking beyond 10 years. And there's a bunch of protocols we use at Equilibrium to get people to see past that. I should apply it to some of the stuff that I'm doing on my own front. I should practice what I preach is what I'm saying here. Thank you so much, Max. I appreciate everything you do in the world.
I hope you found that interview inspiring. If you want to get more inspiration and motivation from super interesting people, please leave a review on iTunes for this podcast so we can get more awesome people on here. And I will also read my favorite iTunes reviews in one of the next episodes. Check out 2050.org. That is 20 and 50 written as words.org for the show notes and links to Stephen's work, as well as free tools and methods to create your own life purpose. Have a great day.